Beneath a sky bruised with shades of twilight and despair, the silhouette of a medieval city claws at the heavens, spires and rooftops, usually bustling with the lifeblood of a thriving populace, now stand as silent witnesses to a creeping dread. The air, thick and heavy, carries not the scent of bakeries and hearths, but the cold, damp odor of fear. This is a city under siege not by armies with banners and swords, but by an invisible, merciless enemy that has turned neighbor against neighbor and hope into a forgotten luxury. The once vibrant heart of this community has ceased to beat, leaving only a chilling, profound silence in its wake. The cobblestone streets, once echoing with the clatter of merchants' carts and the laughter of children, are now deserted arteries of sorrow. Shutters are bolted, doors are barred, and from behind them only the faint flicker of a candle or the sound of a muffled prayer escapes. Every shadow seems to hide a phantom. Every gust of wind sounds like a final rattling breath. The Black Death has draped a shroud over this land, and its citizens are prisoners in their own homes, caught in a state of suspended animation between life and the ever-present threat of a painful, undignified end. The vibrant tapestries of daily life have unraveled, leaving only the drab, gray threads of survival and overwhelming loss. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the swirling, ground-hugging fog, a specter made flesh that is both terrifying and strangely reassuring. Tall and cloaked in dark, heavy garments, the apparition's most striking feature is the grotesque, bird-like mask that conceals its face. The long, hollow beak filled with aromatic herbs to ward off the miasma has become a symbol of this dark era. The Plague Doctor. He is a harbinger of death, yet for many, he represents the last flickering ember of hope in a world consumed by darkness. His measured, deliberate steps break the oppressive silence, each footfall a grim reminder of the duty he has sworn to uphold, walking into the very jaws of the pestilence that has sent everyone else fleeing. The Doctor's journey ends at a weathered wooden door, which creaks open to reveal a dimly lit room and the frail form of a patient lying on a simple cot. Here, in this intimate theater of suffering, the true nature of the struggle is laid bare. The Doctor, with his rudimentary tools and questionable remedies, is a testament to humanity's desperate fight against an overwhelming force. He offers not a cure, for there is none, but comfort, a human presence in the face of absolute desolation. In this small, desperate act of visiting the sick, we see the profound hardship of the age, but also the unyielding search for meaning and compassion, a beacon of light against the encroaching darkness of the plague. In the annals of history, few events loom as large or as dark as the great pestilence that swept across the world. In the autumn of 1347, a fleet of Genoese merchant ships, having sailed from the Black Sea, docked at the Sicilian port of Messina. On board, alongside their precious cargo, they carried a stowaway, an unseen, deadly passenger. This was the arrival of the Black Death in Europe, a plague that would redraw the map of the continent and forever alter the course of its history. What followed was a cataclysm of unimaginable proportions, a specter of death that would haunt every corner of society, from the humblest peasant cottage to the most opulent royal court. As the plague, later identified as the bubonic plague spread by fleas on black rats, began its relentless march across the continent, terror became the new currency of daily life. The vibrant, bustling streets of Europe's cities fell silent, replaced by an eerie quiet broken only by the mournful tolling of church bells and the rumble of death carts. In a desperate attempt to combat the invisible enemy, a new, fearsome figure emerged, the Plague Doctor. The disease was merciless, claiming an estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of Europe's entire population. It was a time when faith was tested, communities were shattered, and the very foundations of medieval society began to crumble under the weight of an unprecedented loss of life. Yet, from the ashes of this devastation, a new world struggled to be born. The plague had not only claimed lives, it had shattered the rigid feudal system that had defined the Middle Ages for centuries. With labor now scarce, surviving peasants and artisans found themselves in a position of newfound power, able to demand better wages and greater freedoms. This massive social and economic upheaval spurred innovation and questioned long-held traditions, planting the seeds for a profound cultural rebirth. The end of the plague marked more than just the passing of a disease. It signaled the twilight of the medieval era and the dawn of a new age of art, science, and humanism, the Renaissance. For those who endured its horrors, the world they knew had been irrevocably lost, but its end gave rise to the world we know today. In the heart of the 14th century, A bustling port city teemed with life, a vibrant tapestry of commerce and daily toil. Ships, their sails full from distant lands, arrived daily at the docks, their holds laden with silks, spices, and untold treasures from the east. As one such vessel moored, its heavy ropes cast ashore, a shadow unseen crept down its lines. Rats, dark and swift, scurried from the ship's belly onto the pier, carrying a silent, deadly passenger nestled in the fleas upon their backs. The city, unaware, continued its lively rhythm, a symphony on the verge of a terrifying silence. The change was subtle at first, then terrifyingly swift. Down the narrow, crowded streets of a nearby village, a strange and fearsome sickness began to take hold. A robust blacksmith, then a young mother, then a child. One by one, they were struck down by a violent fever, their bodies racked with pain and marked by grotesque, dark swellings. Panic, a contagion of its own, spread faster than the illness. Doors were barred, and neighbors looked upon each other with suspicion and terror. Amidst the despair, a figure cloaked in black leather appeared, their face hidden behind a long, beaked mask, stuffed with herbs and spices. This was the plague doctor, a grim and often futile sentinel against a tide of death, moving from one stricken house to the next, a specter in a world consumed by fear. The city's vibrant pulse slowed, then ceased altogether. The cacophony of the marketplace was replaced by an eerie, deafening silence, broken only by the mournful tolling of a distant church bell or the rattling wheels of the death carts. These crude wagons, pushed by grim-faced collectors, navigated the deserted streets, their slow, inexorable journey a daily ritual of gathering the fallen. The once lively avenues, now littered and empty, became open graves. Homes that once echoed with laughter and life were now sealed tombs, their windows dark and their doors marked with a foreboding cross. The city held its breath, waiting for the end. Eventually, the relentless wave of pestilence receded, leaving behind a world transformed and irrevocably scarred. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, they illuminated a landscape of profound loss but also of quiet resilience. The sun rose on a city that was sparser, its population a fraction of what it had been. Yet it was a city that had endured. This new dawn was not just the start of another day. It marked the beginning of a new era, one forged in the crucible of suffering, forever changing the course of a society that had stared into the abyss and, against all odds, survived to see the light again.